beautiful light workers. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about sensitive people, people with anxiety, panic attacks, any sort of anxiety. We all actually have a little bit of anxiety from time to time. And not to scare anyone, but it is on the rise. So if you've been experiencing heightened anxiety, more anxiety than you're used to due to stress, unpredictable circumstances in your life that arise, unexpected things, then you might want to listen to this video, because I've suffered from panic attacks and anxiety, social anxiety, and agoraphobia my whole life since the age of 4. Or ever since I can remember being around other people and feeling uncomfortable and not feeling like I fit in. So it's a pretty common thing that a lot of people feel a little bit here and there, but some people feel it a lot more, and it could start as just a general anxiety or a dread or a worry or a fear, a phobia of anything. It could start as an OCD, and actually anxiety and panic attacks and agoraphobia fall under the phobias in clinical psychology. So that would be considered like an OCD. It's not the same, but it falls in the same family of phobias like OCDs or arachnophobia, any kind of phobia, or OCD behaviors, obsessive compulsive behaviors. So yeah, I didn't really write any notes down, so just gonna kind of go off the top of my mind here from my experience. But yeah, like I've always had really bad bouts of anxiety that kind of turned to these panic attacks that I never knew until I was about 18 or 19, 20-ish, that there was actually a term and a phrase for this and a diagnosis, and it's even been termed as a disease. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty severe if it's something that's going on in your life ongoing. But you know, they say that once you experience a panic attack, you're that much more afraid of it every day of having another one come back. So your general anxiety, if you already have general anxiety, just goes up a little bit more each day, and your nervous system is heightened just a little bit more after that first panic attack, until you can not worry about it anymore. But it's hard to not worry about something that comes over you and you feel like you have no control over your thoughts or your emotions or your bodily symptoms. So for me, I usually would feel dizzy, lightheaded, flushed, red in the face. My whole body will just start dripping in sweat, literally. It's a very unpleasant experience. It feels like you're taking a shower in your clothes in your own sweat, and also your stomach is up in knots, and you just feel like awful, like you're gonna die, and all you want to do is go home, take a shower, and go be alone. So if you can't do that, usually most jobs you have to work through a panic attack. And for me, just leaving the house, if the dog barks at me, next door we have a neighbor lady whose dog, they got kicked out of dog training school. This dog is a nightmare. I love her. Her name's Star. She's a beautiful dog, but she has PTSD. And kind of like I do, I have PTSD from anxiety and from certain situations in my life on top of anxiety. So, so you know, it's not easy for me to be living next to a dog that also has anxiety, and so when the dog sees me, it triggers my anxiety. So, anyway, I have a hard time even leaving my house if the neighbor's dog's outside. Being on the bus around other people to get to work is frustrating. Sometimes, if I pick up on other people's energy and if they tune into me, or I feel their judgments on me, it can be a little annoying, sometimes cause me a panic attack if I'm feeling shy or sensitive. So, you know, for people like us who have anxiety and panic attacks and who are sensitive, in general, a lot of times we're empathetic. We feel other people's emotions, and we almost take on other people's emotions so much to the extent that we don't take care of ourselves. So what I've learned to do is to filter out my perceptions of the world and focus more on my own thoughts, and not daydream, but just focus on something in your environment that you can find beautiful, and just focus on that, even if it's the ground. If you have to go into your thoughts, fine. If you have to go into a daydream, that's fine. But I've found that sometimes going into your mind when you're having a panic attack can sometimes make it worse and prolong the panic attack, as you're not focusing your mind on something that's not about panic. And usually when you just let your mind wander, it'll wander and dwell on what you're not happy with in your life. So yeah, what I've also found is breathing exercises, qigong really helps. Just focusing your mind. One thing is what I learned from this Australian woman's podcast called Claire's Weeklies. I recommend you look for it. Had a woman in the Bahamas, a second cousin of mine, send me them all in MP3 form. So I was listening to those a few years ago. And she is this Australian therapist, the first anxiety therapist to write books and come out and destigmatize social anxiety, agoraphobia, panic attacks, and general anxiety. And she explained that for the most part, people with anxiety, panic attacks, all this have a heightened arousal in their nervous system when it comes to anything in their life. Any stimulus will almost trigger anxiety. So what you need to do when you're in that state to get down and kind of get your nerves back down to normal is, instead of resisting the anxiety, they say, and I've read in other books a book called Panic Away, which I highly recommend as well, by a British author. It's all about welcoming the anxiety, believe it or not, and demanding more, just to prove to yourself that when you demand more, you can't make it worse. It's just going to take its course. And when you're not having anxiety, if you try to demand yourself to have anxiety, you won't. But Claire's Weekly, she recommends that you ride out the waves of anxiety, and so does Panic Away, the book. You ride out the waves, and you feel like a little roller coaster ride inside in your tummy as it's squirming, and you have butterflies, and you make it an exciting adventure. And it's all about experiencing the anxiety rather than trying to flee from it. And when you become the master of your own fears and your own anxiety and your thoughts, I've noticed my thoughts are the main thing too, is you can stop an all-day panic attack. Like, say you don't want to go to a certain event that you've been dreading for months, which I have that problem. If I get invited to a family reunion, some sort of event where it's going to be in the hot heat, where I know I'm going to be sweating and have a panic attack, then I will dread and obsess about it for months on end, and it will almost cause me to have panic attacks daily, obsessing about it. So that happened to me 2 summers ago. So I had to, this summer, teach myself and train myself like I did at the end of the summer. I learned some techniques to take the anxiety down a few notches, and because it was so bad that I couldn't even go to the bathroom and touch myself in any way to take care of my body. And so, like, even just touching my own hands or massaging my shoulder, if I had a pain, causes my hands to get sweaty, and it still does today. Like, I can hardly even be intimate or touch my own body to get massages, to massage out muscle aches, as it makes me sweaty. So I still have a long way to go, and sometimes I'm wondering, will I ever have